stop scrolling right now because what I'm about to tell you could literally be happening to you this very moment, and you're completely misreading the situation. Right now, there's probably a woman in your life, someone you've been talking to, someone you're dating, maybe someone you're in the early stages with, who is acting distant on purpose to make you chase her. She's not losing interest. She's not getting bored. She's not moving on to someone else. In fact, the opposite might be true. She could be more interested than ever, but she's strategically pulling back because she wants to spark your interest, test your investment level, and make you realize how much you actually want her. Here's what's going to blow your mind. When women are genuinely interested in a man but want to increase his attraction and investment, they often create distance instead of getting closer. They don't become more available or more obvious about their interest. They actually become more elusive, more mysterious, and sometimes even harder to reach because they understand that pursuit and uncertainty can intensify attraction. You've probably been completely misinterpreting this behavior. When she takes longer to text back, seems less available for plans, or appears to be pulling away emotionally, you might think she's losing interest. But what if I told you that this distance could actually be a calculated strategy to make you want her more? See, many women instinctively understand the psychology of attraction and scarcity. They know that when something becomes harder to get, it often becomes more desirable. When someone seems less available, we start thinking about them more. When there's uncertainty about someone's interest, it can actually intensify our own feelings. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 specific ways that women act distant, not because they're uninterested, but because they're trying to spark your interest and increase your pursuit. These aren't signs of disinterest. These are strategic behaviors designed to make you chase, invest more emotionally, and realize how much you actually want to be with her. And here's the crazy part. If you recognize even 4 of these behaviors in someone you're dealing with, she's probably more interested in you than you think. But she's using distance as a tool to intensify the dynamic between you. Understanding this could completely change how you interpret her behavior and how you respond. Pay attention, because once you understand these strategic distance techniques, you'll never misread the situation again. And more importantly, you'll know exactly how to respond in ways that work with her psychology instead of against it. Way 1. She takes longer to respond to your messages, but her responses are still engaging. This first way is incredibly common and completely misunderstood by most guys. When she's acting distant to spark your interest, she doesn't just ignore your messages. She strategically delays her responses to create anticipation and make you think about her more. But when she does respond, her messages are still thoughtful, engaging, and show genuine interest. You might notice that she used to respond quickly, but now takes hours or even a day to get back to you. But here's what most guys miss. If you pay attention to the actual content of her messages, they're still substantive, interesting, and continue the conversation in meaningful ways. She's not giving you one-word responses or seeming disengaged. She's just controlling the timing. This shows up in a very specific pattern. She might take 6 hours to respond to your text, but when she does, she asks follow-up questions, references things you talked about before, or shares something personal about her day. The delay creates tension and makes you wonder what she's doing, but the content maintains connection and interest. But here's the psychology behind this strategy. By taking longer to respond, she's making you think about her more during the waiting period. You might check your phone more often, wonder what she's up to, or even start crafting more thoughtful messages because you have more time to think about what to say. This increased mental attention intensifies your interest. The key difference between losing interest and strategic distance is that disinterest shows up in the content and quality of communication, while strategic distance shows up in the timing and frequency. If she's still engaging meaningfully but just taking longer to do it, she's likely creating intentional scarcity. You might also notice that she sometimes responds quickly and sometimes takes longer, creating an unpredictable pattern that keeps you guessing. This intermittent reinforcement is psychologically powerful because it creates a sense of uncertainty that can actually increase your emotional investment. Way 2. She becomes less available for plans but suggests alternative times. Here's a way that reveals strategic behavior rather than genuine disinterest. When she's acting distant to spark your interest, she doesn't just become unavailable, she becomes selectively unavailable, but still shows interest in spending time with you by suggesting alternatives or expressing disappointment about conflicting schedules. You might notice that she can't make plans as easily as she used to, seems to have a busier schedule, or takes longer to commit to dates. But here's what indicates her strategy. When she can't make something work, she suggests other times, asks for rain checks, or expresses genuine disappointment that she can't see you. This shows up in specific ways that differentiate strategic distance from actual disinterest. She might say she can't do dinner Friday, but suggests coffee Sunday instead. She might be unavailable for spontaneous plans, but makes effort to schedule something for later in the week. She creates scarcity while maintaining connection. But here's the psychology she's using. By being less immediately available, she's making time with her feel more valuable and sought after. When someone is harder to see, we often appreciate the time we do get more, and we start looking forward to future interactions with greater anticipation. The key indicator that this is strategic rather than disinterest is that she's still making effort to see you, just on her terms and timeline. If she was truly losing interest, she would make excuses without offering alternatives or simply stop making plans altogether. You might also notice that when you do spend time together, she's fully present, engaged, and seems genuinely happy to be there. This combination of selective availability with high-quality interaction time is a classic strategy for maintaining interest while creating desire. Way 3. She pulls back physically but maintains strong eye contact and emotional connection. This way is subtle but incredibly revealing once you understand what's happening. When she's using distance strategically, she might become less physically affectionate or create more physical space between you, but she compensates by intensifying eye contact, emotional intimacy, and non-physical connection. You might notice that she's less touchy than she used to be, sits slightly farther away, or doesn't initiate physical contact as often. But here's what most guys miss. She's creating physical tension while maintaining intense emotional and visual connection that can actually be more powerful than touch. This shows up in ways that create desire through contrast. She might maintain intense eye contact during conversations, seem emotionally available and connected, but avoid the casual touching or physical closeness that was happening before. This creates a push-pull dynamic that can intensify attraction. But here's the psychology behind this strategy. Physical distance combined with emotional intimacy creates sexual tension and makes you more aware of the physical connection you're not having. When touch becomes scarce, it becomes more meaningful and desired when it does happen. The key difference between disinterest and strategic physical distance is that disinterest usually comes with emotional withdrawal too, while strategic distance maintains or even intensifies emotional and visual connection. She's not pulling away completely, she's creating contrast. You might also notice that when physical contact does happen, it feels more charged and significant than it did when it was more frequent. This is the intended effect. By making physical connection scarce, she's making it more impactful and desired. Way 4, she mentions other social activities without including you. Here's a way that's designed to create jealousy and make you realize what you might be missing. When she's acting distant strategically, she doesn't just disappear from social media or stop talking about her life. She specifically mentions fun activities, social events, or interesting experiences that she's having without you. You might notice that she talks about going out with friends, attending events, or having new experiences, and while she's sharing these stories with you, she's not inviting you to participate. But here's what's really happening. She's showing you that she has a full, interesting life that doesn't revolve around you, which can make her seem more desirable and independent. This shows up in casual mentions of her social life that feel deliberate. She might tell you about a fun party she went to, an interesting person she met, or an adventure she had with friends. She's not rubbing it in your face, but she's making sure you know she's not sitting around waiting for you. But here's the psychology she's using. By demonstrating that other people want to spend time with her, and that she has options, she's increasing her perceived value and making you more aware of competition for her attention. This can trigger a desire to secure more of her time and attention. The key indicator that this is strategic is that she's still sharing these experiences with you, which means she wants you to know about them. If she was truly moving on, she wouldn't feel the need to tell you about her social life. She's creating awareness of scarcity while maintaining connection. You might also notice that these stories sometimes include details about fun things you two could do together, or she might mention wishing you were there. This creates a sense of missing out while suggesting that you could have more access to her interesting life if you step up your game. Way 5. She becomes more independent and self-sufficient in your interactions. When she's using distance strategically, she doesn't just act less available. She demonstrates increased independence and self-sufficiency that contrasts with how she might have acted before. She stops asking for help with things she used to ask about, solves problems on her own, and generally shows that she doesn't need you for practical or emotional support. You might notice that she doesn't text you for advice as much, doesn't ask for your opinion on decisions, or stops seeking your help with things she used to involve you in. But here's what this strategic independence is designed to do: make you realize how much you enjoyed being needed and wanted by her. This shows up in ways that can make you feel less important or useful in her life. She might handle situations she would have previously talked through with you, make decisions without asking for your input, or seem perfectly content managing her life without your involvement. But here's the psychology behind this behavior. When someone becomes less dependent on us, it can trigger a desire to reestablish our importance and value in their life. She's showing you that she's fine without you, which can make you want to prove that you're valuable and worth having around. The key difference between this strategic independence and genuine emotional withdrawal is that she's still communicating with you and sharing her life. She's just not asking for help or support. She wants you to see that she's capable and independent, which can actually increase attraction. You might also notice that this independence makes her seem more attractive and confident, which can intensify your interest. When someone doesn't seem to need us, it can make us want to earn a place in their life rather than taking their attention for granted. Way 6. She gives you just enough attention to keep you interested. This way is perhaps the most sophisticated strategy in her distance playbook. She doesn't cut off contact or ignore you completely. Instead, she carefully calibrates her attention to give you just enough positive reinforcement to maintain your interest while creating enough scarcity to make you want more. You might notice that your interactions with her feel like they're on a variable schedule. Sometimes she's warm, engaged, and available, and other times she's polite but distant. She might have great conversations with you one day and be harder to reach the next. This inconsistency is actually carefully managed to keep you engaged. This shows up as intermittent reinforcement, a psychological principle that's incredibly powerful for maintaining someone's interest. She gives you enough positive interaction to remember how good it feels to connect with her, but not so much that you become complacent or take her attention for granted. But here's the psychology she's leveraging. Irregular rewards are more addictive than consistent ones. When you never know exactly how much attention you're going to get from her, your brain stays more engaged and focused on her than it would if her attention was predictable and constant. The key indicator that this is strategic is the careful balance. She never completely withdraws, but she also never gives you unlimited access to her time and attention. She's managing the supply and demand of her interest to maximize your investment. You might also notice that the positive interactions feel more meaningful and valuable because they're less frequent. When her attention becomes a limited resource, you naturally appreciate it more and think about it more when it's absent. Way 7. She creates mystery about her feelings and intentions. This final way might be the most powerful tool in her strategic distance arsenal. She doesn't explicitly tell you how she feels about you or where things are going. Instead, she maintains enough ambiguity about her feelings and intentions to keep you guessing and invested in figuring out where you stand. You might notice that she sends mixed signals, gives you hints about her interest but never confirms it directly, or seems interested one moment and aloof the next. But here's what this mystery is designed to do. Make you more mentally and emotionally invested in her, because your brain is constantly trying to solve the puzzle of her true feelings. This shows up in conversations where she might seem flirty and interested, but then pull back before things become too clear. She might make comments that suggest she cares about you, but leave room for interpretation. She keeps you in a state of hopeful uncertainty. But here's the psychology behind this strategy. Uncertainty about someone's feelings can actually intensify our own attraction and emotional investment. When we're not sure how someone feels about us, we think about them more, analyze our interactions more carefully, and become more invested in winning their clear interest. The key element of this strategic mystery is that she gives you enough positive signals to believe she might be interested, but never enough clarity to feel completely secure. This keeps you in pursuit mode and emotionally engaged in the dynamic between you. You might also notice that this ambiguity makes every interaction feel more significant because you're constantly looking for clues about her true feelings. This increased attention and analysis actually intensifies your own feelings and investment in the situation. The psychology behind strategic distance. Understanding why women use distance as a tool requires recognizing that attraction often intensifies under conditions of uncertainty and scarcity. Many women instinctively understand that being too available or too obvious about their interest can sometimes decrease their desirability, especially in the early stages of dating or relationship development. This strategic distance isn't about playing games for the sake of manipulation. It's about creating the optimal conditions for attraction to develop and intensify. When someone is too easy to get or too predictable, it can reduce the excitement and challenge that often fuel romantic interest. The psychological principles she's using, scarcity, intermittent reinforcement, uncertainty, and social proof, are well-documented drivers of human attraction and emotional investment. By creating strategic distance, she's working with natural human psychology rather than against it. Recognizing the difference between a strategy and genuine disinterest. The key to understanding whether distance is strategic or genuine disinterest lies in looking at the overall pattern of behavior rather than individual actions. Strategic distance maintains connection while creating scarcity, whereas genuine disinterest usually involves decreasing quality of interaction and genuine unavailability. When distance is strategic, you'll notice that she's still engaged when you do interact, still responsive to your communication, even if delayed, and still shows signs of interest in maintaining some level of connection. The distance creates tension, but the connection remains strong. When disinterest is genuine, you'll typically see decreased quality in all forms of interaction, less enthusiasm in communication, and a general sense that she's pulling away completely rather than creating strategic scarcity. How to respond to strategic distance. If you recognize that someone is using strategic distance to spark your interest, the most effective response is usually to match her energy while showing that you're genuinely interested but not desperate. Don't chase harder when she pulls back, but don't withdraw completely either. The goal is to show that you're interested but have your own life and options. Respond to her distance with your own sense of independence and confidence. Show appreciation for the time and attention she does give you without becoming needy for more. Remember that if she's using these strategies, she's probably genuinely interested in you, but wants to see how you'll respond to challenge and uncertainty. Your response to her distance will tell her a lot about your confidence, emotional maturity, and genuine interest level. The most important thing to remember about strategic distance is that it's often a sign of interest rather than disinterest. When someone cares enough about the outcome to strategically manage their availability and attention, it usually indicates that they're invested in creating the best possible dynamic between you. If you're recognizing these patterns in someone's behavior toward you, don't assume she's losing interest. Instead, consider that she might be more interested than ever, but is trying to create the optimal conditions for that interest to develop into something meaningful and lasting. Understanding these strategies can help you respond more effectively and avoid the common mistake of chasing harder when someone pulls back. Instead, you can appreciate the psychology behind her behavior and respond in ways that work with her strategy rather than against it. The deeper motivation behind distance. What many men don't realize is that strategic distance often comes from a place of genuine care about the relationship's potential. A woman who uses these techniques isn't trying to hurt or confuse you. She's trying to create the best possible foundation for something real to develop between you. She understands that relationships built on challenge, mutual investment, and genuine desire tend to be stronger and more satisfying than those where one person is significantly more invested than the other. By creating strategic distance, she's encouraging you to match her level of investment and interest. Moving forward with understanding. Now that you understand these strategic distance techniques, you can navigate these situations with greater confidence and clarity. When someone acts distant, you won't immediately assume disinterest, and you'll be able to respond in ways that demonstrate your own value and independence, while still showing genuine interest in her.